Hello, this is Zach Brooks with World Transplant Athletes. Tips and tricks by and for transplant athletes anywhere, anytime, and online. If you have a body with a new body part and you can move, you are a World Transplant Athlete. As a two-time kidney transplant recipient and frequent participant at local, national, and World Transplant Games, I always wonder, how do other recipients take care of their health and prepare for competitions? Well, for me, there's only one way to find out, and that's to learn from the most inspiring transplant athletes in the world. Today, I have Gray Brett from Canada. Gray, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Oh, thanks so much. I'm amazing. I really appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation and to hopefully reach a larger audience. So thanks very much. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, Gray. It's really good to see you again. I like to follow you on Facebook and Instagram and see your movement work. So it's fun to actually have a synchronous communication with you. So it's really cool to see you today. So
I really appreciate that. Thanks.
What I like to do before I get started, just one second while I get my computer charged here. Sorry for anyone watching this thinking this is a perfectly production. Always, that's just how it is. I need to charge my computer. So before I get going, I really like to get audience members to get to know you through a few warm-up questions. So I have 4 warm-up questions, and then we'll get to your tips. And thanks so much for sending tips. So the first question I have for you is, which transplant did you have?
I had a liver transplant on June 20th, 2015. So if you're doing the math, that's just a few days over 6 years ago.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
Question number 2, if you had to summarize your entire transplant journey in one word, what would it be?
Transformational.
Why transformational?
Well, I just look at my life before my liver transplant and my life since my liver transplant. And I had a great life before my transplant. I was doing a lot of stuff, having a lot of fun. But I really look at the opportunities that I've been met with and the other people, the transplant recipients that I've met at the World Transplant Games. I look at the things that I'm up to these days, and it's vastly different than what I was doing before. And I have a new focus and a new motivation, and it's everything transplant sport related, organ donation awareness related. It's just given me a real good purpose in life. It's given me new vision as well. So I no longer look at some things as being important as they were before, and some things that weren't really important before are extra important now. So it's transformed my life. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, I remember after my first transplant, people said, "Oh, you must have so much perspective," and it took me to at least over a decade to figure out what my perspective was that I actually gained from all of it. And I think that for me, I'm much more patient with many things in life, and I'm way less patient with certain things. Like I'm much more of a compassionate person for, people who are going through difficult things, health-wise or otherwise. But sometimes I'm less patient when it comes to, colloquially BS, right? Just things seem not to matter. So that's, I've kind of tapped into how you said there's certain things that are important now that they weren't, before they were important, now maybe not as much. So I certainly agree with that. So the third question I have, the warm-up question I have for you is, what was your first exercise post-transplant?
Well, it wasn't much. I left the hospital in a wheelchair. All my muscles had atrophied and I couldn't walk. So really I started out with baby steps, just walking down the driveway, trying to build that strength back up. And then I had the idea to get back into a pool. I had been a swimmer when I was young, but I got back into the pool, and it was something about the buoyancy. It took the weight off my joints, and it allowed me to build the muscle in a bit of a less taxing way. So swimming is the real first sport or activity that I got into, other than walking.
So so your first sort of mini exercise is walking into the driveway and back. How long was it before you were able to swim, get in the pool? How many months until you got in?
I think I was in the water about a month and a half
Okay.
after my transplant.
Yeah, it seems pretty typical. I mean, you need 6 weeks to a couple months to kind of get back into it. So,
I was worried about the water getting in my scar,
of course, yeah, and you,
leaking inside.
yeah, of course, that makes a lot of sense. You want to let that heal. So
Yes.
the final warm-up question I have for you: in which activities do you regularly participate?
I'm in love with everything movement related. So I like to get down on my hands and knees and play around on the ground and do acrobatic things. I like to do a lot of body weight exercises. I swim. I swim a lot. I'm a competitive swimmer now. That's what I compete in at the World Transplant Games as a swimmer. But I'm also being a lifelong martial artist. So it's a little bit of all of that.
Yeah. So, what are your just before I forget, what are your Facebook and Instagram uh, profile names? Because if people want to check out your movement you post every once in a while, it's pretty cool to watch, especially for a transplant
Oh,
athlete.
I really appreciate that. I'm Gray, Greybret, Gray Brett, on Facebook and Instagram. It's chasing underscore greatness, but greatness is spelled GREYTNESS. I've made greatness my own.
Cool. I'll tag you when I post this. So let's get
Thank
now to
you.
the part of this conversation, which I'm really excited about, the tips and tricks. You shared your tips with me a few weeks back, and I like to read
Hmm.
from top to bottom, and then we'll go back to the top, and you can walk us through each of them. And what strikes
Sure.
me about your tips, Gray, is that they're so non-movement related. So I'm really excited to unpack these with you. So tip number one you have for everyone out there is to exercise, keep a gratitude journal. Number two,
Hmm.
do breath work. Number three,
Hmm.
meditate. Number four, be consistent, develop a daily practice. And number five, replace motivation with discipline. So this is super exciting because no one really talks like this. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say. And I'm always thinking about a person waking up today in a hospital having their transplant. So number one, Brett, why is to exercise, keeping a gratitude journal so important to you?
Well, of course, like yeah, my tips are a little bit different than what I would expect that everybody else would give you. How to like choose an exercise that you like and all of that stuff, and just keep going and don't push yourself too hard, but push yourself hard enough. I mean,
Yeah.
you're gonna get a ton of that stuff.
Mhm.
But what I would like to share with everybody are the things that I do personally that have, I think, separated me from the pack and given me the success at the World Games or just in life in general.
Mhm.
And they're a little bit removed from what I think everybody would think about. But yeah, I keep a gratitude journal
Mhm.
and a journal in general. So every morning when I wake up, I write down three things that I'm grateful for, and it kind of sets the day off in a positive way. It gives me an intention, gives me attention to everything that I'm thankful for. And it could be very simple. It could be just, I'm happy that I woke up today, or
Mhm.
I'm happy that I had that conversation with somebody yesterday, but just something that starts off the day and makes me feel positive.
Yeah.
Also, with all of the exercise that I do, I like to be very measurable. I like to see progress. I like to, I keep the journal about what I did today, what felt good, what didn't feel good, where I think I could improve, where I know I can push a little harder, or if I'm having a bad day, I just write down that I'm having a bad day and I can go back and I can look and I can use that as some sort of um, like it helps me with my focus. If I'm having another bad day, I can go back to another day because I have them all listed in by date order. I'll
Mhm.
take a look and I'll see that, geez, yeah, on July 20th, or June 20th rather, I had a bad day.
Mhm.
But then the very next day was good, and the following 6 days I felt really good. So today is just a little blip. It's just like June 20th.
Okay, yeah, that like that last part you said, it's just a little blip, like keep our negative days in perspective. I think that's important.
Yeah.
The other thing that stood out when you were sharing that, Gray, is, I know from a little bit of my own research, doing a PhD, is that, humans, and just intuitively, most humans know this, humans tend to be negative, and so
Yeah.
reasons, because we wouldn't be alive, we wouldn't have survived, plagues and animals chasing us down and starvation, all these many centuries if we weren't negative. We're like constantly looking for threats. But because we have the opportunity, it is important to balance some of that negativity with that positive thing. So I really like the gratitude and getting yourself started on a positive mindset every morning. So thanks so much for that first tip. The second tip you have here is do breath work. Tell us
Hmm.
about that.
Yeah, breath work. Breath work can be very simple. It could be as simple as just paying attention to your breath, just following it in all the way from the minute the exhale to the second the inhale starts, all the way, making sure that you're going down to the diaphragm, breathing really deeply, not just shallow in your chest type stuff. But it can get a lot deeper than that as well. You can do a lot of breath hold work. You can do what's called box breathing, which is where you're breathing on a pattern. But breath work in general, I really enjoy, and I do that every day. And the reason I do that is it really brings me in tune and in focus with myself and my being. So it's a little bit of time where I can focus on one particular thing, which is the breath, and it kind of slows my heart rate down, makes me aware of everything. It slows my perception down. And what I do, I also take this into swim training or whatever training I'm doing. So as a swimmer, we do a lot of short rest work where so I could be doing 2100s on say a 135 pace.
Mm-hmm.
And
Pretty
if
fast.
I'm coming in, well, sure. But like, so if I'm not really being careful with everything, I could really run out of gas quite quickly if I'm pushing. So short rest, I like to come in around 128. I get about 6 or 7 seconds worth of rest. And it's that time, that 6 or 7 seconds, that I will consciously slow my breath down. It could only be for a couple of inhales, in through my nose, out through my mouth. And once again, it kind of slows my heart rate down. It helps me focus on the task at hand, which is these 2100s. And the habit of doing this consistently during a set makes the set go by a little quicker. It feels like I'm in more control. So it has a benefit in exercise and a benefit outside of exercise as well, at least to me.
Yeah, well, thank you, Brett. I might want to follow up with you some more about breath work in the future. So thanks for sharing that. So tip number 3 is meditate. Why is meditation
Mm-hmm.
for you important as a transplant athlete?
Well, I look at breath work and meditation kind of as cousins. They like to hang out with each other. I do like to do a little breath work before I get into my meditation. The breath work kind of gets me into that zone, and then I'll meditate. And it's really controlling my thoughts, calming everything down once again. And so developing this as for me as a consistent daily practice just gives me time to develop my spirit, and keep my emotions in check. And then the real world application of this is if I'm at the World Transplant Games and I'm getting ready, I know my event is in about 10 minutes. My mind is racing. I'm seeing all my competition getting ready. I have too many thoughts going on. I'm not focusing on my race, on what I'm here to do. So there are too many minds. So if I can take a little bit of time to slow my heart rate down and really focus my thoughts and tunnel my thoughts into my race, I've just found that it has been beneficial for my performance. And it's the practice of meditation that allows me to be able to do that on the fly when I need it in a pinch, say at the games.
Yeah, thank you for that. So it reminds me of the distinction of signal and noise, right? I mean, there's all sorts of sound in the world. Some of that sound
Yeah.
for you in particular is signal, something you respond to, and some of it's noise. But when the noise becomes signal, that starts to interfere with you at the games, for example. So if you can kind of find a way to just draw in the signals that you want and everything else kind of becomes this noise in the distance, it certainly would help you focus in the moment, especially right before a competition, maybe just a few seconds before jumping into the pool.
Yeah, I really like the way you said that. That's a good rewording of what I said. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad it worked. So the fourth tip I have from you is be consistent, develop a daily practice. So can you unpack that for us a little bit as well, Gray?
Yeah, sure. So daily practice is just something that no matter what, I will do every single day. And so for me, that changes. Maybe I'll do a specific 7 little things. It could be just simple little stretches that I'll do when I warm up or before I start a session. It doesn't matter what it is, but it's the consistent nature in which I'm applying these things, or I'm attacking these things. That's the real magic. So on the days where maybe I'm a little bit busy, I haven't been able to train, I know that if I don't move, I get stiff, and I don't like feeling stiff. So I'll do 6, or right now I'm doing these 7 things every single day. And I just call it a daily practice. So no matter what, these 7 things get done during the day. And it could be in a movement snack kind of way. And what I mean by a movement snack is, if we think about snacks, what is it to everybody? It's like maybe you a little hungry in the afternoon, so you grab a snack to tide you over. So to me, a movement snack it's not a workout.
Yeah.
It's a little snack in between workouts or in between something. So I'll have these little interruptions in my day where maybe I've got 5 minutes. So I'll hit 2 of those 7 that I need to do today. And it's just the consistent nature in which I do those that allows me to be ready to train whenever I would like to. And hopefully I get to have a good day, because I haven't had 6 or 7 days off where I haven't been doing anything and my body hasn't been moving at all, because I've had this daily practice.
Yeah, thanks. I've done a few of these interviews now over the years, and this is the latest version of it. And a lot of athletes talk about consistency. And what I find really fascinating about this tip is that, it's easy to say, but in fact, it's that daily discipline. It's extremely hard to do. So, I find that particular conversation with athletes is a fascinating one. What gets them to be consistent every day, which kind of segues very well the final tip from you. And the final tip from you, Gray, is just really an awesome sort of concept. So I can't wait to talk about this one, which is number 5, replace motivation with discipline. So where did you come up with this? How have you implemented it? I mean, talk about this one as much as you want, because replacing motivation with discipline just sounds like a semi-radical concept.
Yeah, everybody likes to talk about being motivated, and I feel motivated, or I don't feel motivated. And it seems to be like a start and stop for a lot of people, this absence or this presence of motivation in their lives. And the way I came to this tip is a number of years ago, when I was getting ready for the Malaga World Transplant Games. It was my first games. I was really quite nervous, and I was pushing myself really hard because I wanted to do well. I was feeling alive, and I wanted to push myself. And I think I was training maybe a little bit too hard and for a little bit too long, and I was starting to get a little bit tired. And I swim with like a high performance swim team. There's a couple ex-Olympians on the team, some world masters champions. And so it's a very good team. And my coach is a very good coach. And so I was talking to him about how I was feeling. And I was saying that I don't know, I just don't feel motivated. And he was the one that said, listen, motivation doesn't exist. Like, motivation is useless. Motivation, and this is what stuck with me. He said, motivation is not there at 6 in the morning when the alarm goes off. The only thing that's there is you and your discipline. So if you replace motivation, this abstract concept that is kind of out of your control, you've got to get it when you can reach it, and sometimes you can't hold on to it. if that goes away and you replace that with discipline, discipline is something that is always with you because you control it. You control your discipline.
Yeah.
So it, to me, gave me a sense of power over my ability to train. And so in that specific circumstance, although I wasn't feeling motivated, I continued to go to practice. I didn't work as hard as I did because I was feeling a little bit overtrained. So I took about a week where I was just doing some slower work, and then that came back, and then it was discipline focused from that point on rather than motivation. And I can see that working specifically with preparing for the World Transplant Games or other athletic competitions, but also just life in general. I mean, there are some times where, of course, you don't want to get up. You've got a deadline that you have to do, or my daughter is ready to get up, and I'm not. I'm still a little bit tired. So I pull on discipline. You know, I'm a father. I need to be disciplined around raising my daughter.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Discipline, some replace motivation with discipline. It reminds me of a soccer coach I had in high school who would always yell out while we were just doing these wind sprints, discipline before freedom. You know, it was such a great, he was very, and he's German and so forth. But what he really meant is that, you know, we were going to be free to play soccer in a certain way once we had the discipline to get through the training. Like we had to get to a certain level before we could kind of, you know, play and interact in this case, soccer, the way we wanted to. So yeah, I think this idea of discipline is extremely fundamental, like you said, to life and to athletics. So thanks so much for sharing that, Gray.
No, thank you.
Yeah. So for everyone out there, so Gray, again, thanks so much for being on the show. For audience people out there.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're very welcome. You can visit facebook.com/World Transplant Athletes. Also on Instagram at World Transplant Athletes. World Transplant Athletes, tips and tricks by and for transplant athletes anywhere, anytime, and of course, online. If you have a body with a new part and you can move, you are a World Transplant Athlete. Gray, thank you.
No, thank you, Zach. I really appreciate the opportunity.